satisfies? Do you believe in a God that opens eyes? Do you believe in a God that tells you lies? Or do you believe in me? Do you believe in a God that brings you down? Do you believe in a God that wears the ground? Do you believe in a God that makes you bow? Or do you believe in me? Do you believe in a God that satisfies? Do you believe in a God that opens eyes? Do you believe in a God that tells you lies? Or do you believe in me? Do you believe in a God that brings you down? Do you believe in a God that wears the ground? Do you believe in a God that makes you bow? Or do you believe in me?
It's Beyond Common Sense. It's Lanny Sense with Lanny Swerglo, KCAA's resident gay, woke, liberal, pot-smoking, race-mixing, tree-hugging, left-handed, science-affirming, Jewish, humanist, atheist, a white evangelical Christian nationalist, worst nightmare. Well, hello and welcome to I was going to say Tonight Show, but we're not on a night anymore. We are on in the afternoon at 2 p.m. So welcome this afternoon to Lanny Sense. We are so glad to have you here with us. Joining us here in the virtual KCAA studio is our progressive curmudgeon, Sam Clowder, and our progressive documentary filmmaker and outspoken homosexual, Gregory Franklin. Thank you guys for joining us here. We're going to have a great show. And if one of our listeners would like to join in on the conversation, please give us a call at 909-383-1000 or 909-383-9000. Either number works, 1000 or 9000. But you got to get the first 6 digits right, 909-383-1000 or 909-383-9000. We would love to hear from you. You know, I want to start this off with an interesting little tidbit. You know, we haven't talked about cannabis too much lately, but I came across this interesting article in the San Francisco Gate, and it says that California politicians and pot advocates have long bragged that California is home to the largest legal cannabis market in the world. Governor Gavin Newsom made the claim twice in the past 2 months alone. But newly reported data is calling the Golden State's weed dominance into question. Michigan, get this, Michigan now sells more legal cannabis than California, according to data shared with San Francisco Gate by BDSA, a cannabis analytics firm. Michigan sold 22 million products, 22 million cannabis products in March, while California only sold 21.3 million products. Now, I don't know exactly what a product is. It doesn't say. According to the firm, it says any individual packaging of cannabis, like a flower or a vape pen, counts as a product. But user paraphernalia, like rolling papers or pipes, do not. So it's got to have cannabis as part of it. Product. It doesn't go about Anyway, that's kind of interesting that in some ways, anyway, California isn't number one. And considering how many more people California has than Michigan, it's really surprising. Maybe
does that mean that everyone in Michigan is totally stoned out of their gourd?
It sure must be.
It was true.
Yeah, but somebody is smoking a lot or using a lot in Michigan, obviously. Of course, now maybe Michigan doesn't have the illegal market like California has. And you know, there is...
we can generally count on Michigan not producing as much cannabis as California produces. They might. This is a matter of consumption rather than production.
Well, yeah, it could be. You're right. California does produce a lot. But here's an interesting, another article that was in San Francisco just about that very thing, about how much is California actually, what's happening in California. And the article is titled, California Pot Economy is Crashing. And it goes on, it says, Vince Ning has a singular perspective on California weed industry. He is the CEO and co-founder of NABIS, the state's largest pot distribution company, which interacts with every single pot retailer in the state. Now, they should be saying cannabis, shouldn't they, Sam, instead of pot?
Yes. Yes.
When Ning looks out across California's legal weed industry, he sees a market on a long, drawn-out free fall. It's like a wave crashing in slow motion, he said. people thought the big crash was going to happen in 2022, and there was certainly a crash, but things continue to get worse in 2023, and here we are now at the end of 2024, and things aren't looking that much better. The latest data confirms Neve's point of view, with signs of economic troubles nearly everywhere you look. Overall, all sales have been failing for the past 2 years. The number of legal cannabis growers and branch has decreased by more than 70% since legalization first went into effect. A recent report found that the pot companies owe the state more than $730 million in back taxes, money that California will probably never reap. Well, there you go. Now, most of this is due to the illegal pot market because of California's outrageous taxation and its ridiculous regulations and kind of stuff. Most marijuana being sold in the state of California is illegal because it's so much cheaper than legal. I don't know if that's true in Michigan or not. Maybe Michigan has reasonable taxes or whatever. Maybe they can't grow much marijuana in Michigan. It's too cold. I don't know.
Have to be indoors.
Has
they
to
would
be
have
indoors.
one harvest season in the summer outside. Otherwise, everything's indoors. And here in California now, the growers have figured out they have 4 harvests every 3 months, even through the winter.
And I see. Okay. All right. Well, they're probably growing a lot more in California, but in California, what they grow, most of it usually goes out of state anyway, illegally out of state, of course.
Yeah,
So,
I know the number one industry in Humboldt County when I lived there was illegal marijuana production.
It could very well still be. I don't know. I used to live up in Humboldt County because that was a long time ago. And
that's right.
That was
I
back
think
in
it's in my best interest
68,
not to
69,
comment on
70.
that.
What was that?
I said I think it's in my best personal interest right now not to comment on that.
On weed growing back in 70? Okay. Fair enough.
Let me get settled in Ecuador, and then I can comment on that.
There you go. I had a relative who back then was growing cannabis in Garberville, in the Garberville area, which was and that was Garberville's. I think they had one lumber mill in Garberville, and then they had the pot industry. And I imagine the pot industry probably. What was that?
I think the lumber mill went out of business in Garberville.
Oh, it probably has gone out of business since then, but back then there was a lumber mill, and but I imagine the cannabis industry generated more revenue for the businesses in Garberville than did the cannabis industry, than the lumber industry, and now. Probably you're right. The lumber industry is shut down. That lumber mill is shut down. I don't know if I wonder with all the legal marijuana being grown elsewhere, I wonder if the amount of illegal grows up in the Golden Triangle up there in Humboldt and Del Norte and Trinity County have significantly decreased in the amount they grow. You think they're still growing lots?
Yeah, there's probably 1/4 to 1/3 has legal permits and everything else is illegal. Plus, there are growers who will get a permit and they will grow far more than they're permitted to grow. So they have a legal and an illegal crop. And there's just really no way to figure it out because there's no way to, because 64 was so poorly written on enforcement, taxes, and all the rest of that stuff.
It needs to be wholesale revised, and that's the only thing that's going to save the legal cannabis industry is 64 needs to be revised. I mean, not all of it, but a lot of the regulations and stuff in it and the taxations that's allowed in it. Cal Normal has this real little good chart. Let me see if I can bring it up here. I was looking at it earlier today.
Politically, pragmatically, I don't think anything is going to change in the state of California until it changes on a federal level. There's just no reason to change it. There's no, who really wants it changed, Lanny?
Yeah,
who really wants
a lot
it
of people,
amended?
I want it changed. But here's
yes, I know that you do, because you have two interests: politics and the cost of it. Right? What else?
That's right.
Why other
cheap.
reason?
Cannabis should be cheap.
That's
Yeah,
right.
you're
You
right.
want it cheaper than it is.
But here's the thing: the
But that's
charts.
because you've never had to pay for an attorney, Lanny. If you ever
Yeah,
had to pay for an attorney, you'd consider it cheap as it is.
yeah. Here's the chart that Cal Normal put out entitled "How Unfairly High Are Cannabis Taxes." It says a 5-ounce glass of wine, the taxes amount to 1 penny. 1 penny, a five-ounce glass of wine. A 12-ounce glass of beer, 2 pennies, 2 cents. 1.5 ounces of liquor, the hard stuff, Jack Daniels, 8 cents. Tobacco cigarette, one cigarette has a tax of 14 cents. And one cannabis pre-roll joint has a tax at $1.24, and it's going to go up in 2025 because of an increase in taxes to $1.57. So 14 cents for a tobacco cigarette, that's going to kill you, and $1.24 going up to $1.57 for. That's the problem there. The taxes are just so outrageously high that the illegal market just thrives, because who wants to pay $1.24 for a pre-roll if you can get it from somebody illegally? I mean, because it's just absurd. And until that changes, we're always going to have this problem.
Yeah,
Hey,
we're
Greg.
still in a gray area. It's like when prohibition of alcohol was repealed. It took about 10 years for changes to be made so that all alcohol could be done legally and be profitable. There was a gray area there. A lot of people were still making moonshine. They still do, There's still people who do make
Yeah,
moonshine in Kentucky and don't pay any taxes on it, but it's not as big as a market. I mean, I really don't
no.
think you can ever totally eliminate the illegal market just because of, well, there's a rebel incentive in
If
all
if
of the
if
United
if
States
if
citizens.
yeah, that's true. But if the cannabis was fairly and reasonably taxed like it is wine and beer,
Oh, it'd be a lot
then
better.
people.
I mean, it has to get better. It can't get worse.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
So, and since tobacco, cannabis is safer than wine and beer, it should certainly be taxed at the same level. Gregory, you're in Oregon. Oregon is one of those states that produces way more cannabis than than they than Oregon people consume. So a lot of it goes out of state as well there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to have Paul stand.
What I was thinking about is taxing marijuana in California is so high. What is that money for? What do they do with that money? Because we're having a problem with that here in Oregon. I'll talk about that in a minute.
It was supposed to go, I believe, for drug treatment and that kind of stuff, but most of it's going to the general fund because California is in serious financial trouble right now with a huge deficit running into 20 some odd $billion. So it's that money. But I mean, cannabis doesn't raise all that much in taxes. It raises about $500 million or something like that a year. I mean, certainly I'm not going to sniff at $500 million. If somebody gave me $500 million, I'd be thrilled. But for the state of California, that's really small. I mean, I would say the savings from cannabis come more in that law enforcement isn't spending millions and millions of dollars arresting tens of thousands of people every year, because that's not happening anymore. There's some big savings there.
Well, you know that here in Oregon, all drugs were legalized for a while. I think it was Measure 110 or something like that. Well, they're illegal again.
They weren't legalized. They were decriminalized. There's a difference.
Thank you. Good.
Decriminalized.
They were decriminalized, and so people were using it on the street. Now, all of the money that was coming from cannabis taxes in Oregon was supposed to go to drug treatment. Well, all that money piled up in the city, and they didn't use it for treatment. They didn't open new centers and everything like that. So that whole thing about Measure 110, allowing people to possess small amounts of pretty much any drug, failed. And I believe that it failed mainly because people in the city were conservative and wanted it to fail and made sure that it was failed so they could continue to have it illegal.
Yeah, I don't doubt that for a second. And they were conflating homelessness with the drug use, and that's absurd. And so it'll be interesting to see how it shapes out. I think the law that got passed, the initiative, calls for much more extensive treatment programs than they did before. But how they're going to fund those programs, that'll be interesting to see how that happens.
It's not like that in Oregon because now they're all illegal again. Marijuana's still legal though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That is good. That is good. Well, anyway, let's talk about climate change, huh? Have you seen how the weather is? What's going on back east? Oh my God! It's heavy snow and ice and minus 30 degrees and all that kind of stuff. And people want to say that that's so. What's global warming? Well, it's global warming that's causing that because it's causing a distortion in the polar vortex, and it's allowing the polar vortex that normally stays up in the poles to reach down into the states and bringing that very, 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 very cold weather with it.
I know that when here in Oregon, when I first moved here, this is like in the late 80s, snow in the winter was unheard of. Now we have it every year. Sometimes we'll have one storm. We just got over a snowstorm. This one wasn't too bad. There was only like 3 or 4 inches of snow. But a couple of years ago, we had an ice storm where we had ice on the streets for almost 2 weeks.
Oh,
because those weather patterns just kept hitting us, and that's unheard of for this part of the country. And you're right, to the east of us, at the same level, it's much worse for them.
Yeah, I lived in Oregon for 30 years, from 1970 to 2000, and I swear I could count the number of times I saw snow in Portland on my fingers on my hands. It just hardly ever happened, and now it just happens all the time. And
the solar, the Arctic the Arctic ice cap is shrinking massively.
Yeah, and the Antarctic ice shelves are collapsing into the ocean, and what do? We got a president now that pulls us out of the Paris Climate Accord and says drill baby drill, and let's not do any electric cars. They're pulling out the subsidy, the $7,500 federal subsidy.
Whoa! Wait a second. What do you mean? Let's not do electric cars? Elon Musk is in charge.
I know, and that's what's surprising.
Every Musk car I see, that T doesn't stand for Tesla anymore. It stands for Trump.
Yeah.
Nikola Tesla rolling in his grave. If the Tesla family had any power, they'd sue the hell out of Musk for using his name.
I would think so. But the thing is, he didn't object to the $7,500 subsidy being taken out. But maybe that's because if you can afford a Tesla, $7,500 is of no concern to you.
That is definitely a consideration. I'll tell you what, President Musk is just
President
a destructive evil. He's destructive and he's evil. I mean, come on. He wears a black hat that says "Make America Great" on it. Dresses in black all the time. Hitler salute. Yeah. The guy is evil. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And he's the president of the United States. Did either of you see the press conference that was held in the Oval Office with him and Musk and Musk's little kid?
No, thank you. I don't watch it anymore.
Oh my God! It was a display of cuckery. I mean, Donald Trump is not the president anymore. Elon Musk was clearly in charge. Okay, he was there to talk about this. You have Elon Musk with his little kid in the Oval Office, not even wearing a tie, dressed in black, and with his black MAGA hat. And Trump is sitting at the Resolute desk with his hands folded, literally listening to this guy pontificate. Part of the reason for that is because Donald Trump hired him because he's a gamer, he's a hacker, and he knows all kind of tech bros, okay? And he knows that what's coming as far as power is going to come from internet technology. And so he doesn't know anything about it. So he's turning it all over to President Musk, who is literally taking over the United States right now.
Well, you know, they're firing all these federal employees, hundreds of thousands, and I think the idea is they're going to put AI replacing a lot of these people. Just have computers replacing them.
You notice that the people that he's firing are inspectors general, and these are the people who are basically the police of the government. And basically, he's firing all the police so that he can do whatever he wants and not have to worry about the law.
Yeah. It's going to be, and what's so amazing is that the Congress, the Republicans in Congress anyway, are just going along with having all their authority usurped.
Why is this amazing?
What?
Why do you think this is amazing?
Well,
not
because
to me.
This is exactly what they've intended to do all along.
Ever since Nixon.
Do you think the Congress people really intended to turn all the power over to the executive branch?
Republicans.
The Republicans, yes.
Maybe.
They've always been that way. They did that way for Nixon. They did that way for Reagan.
Well, for Nixon, remember, it was
They
Republicans.
did that way for Bush Jr.
It was the Republicans who went to Nixon and told him to resign, that he was going to be impeached.
True.
That's one of the, yeah.
But they stood behind him until the tapes were released.
Yeah, that's true. Those
And I
tapes
don't think that they would have. I don't think that they would have fired Nixon from the presidency if he did not resign. I think they basically talked him into it, and he did it.
Yeah, they did, so that they wouldn't have to go through the process of impeachment and convicting him and kicking him out and putting him in prison. They were serving themselves.
And they would have been embarrassing themselves really badly by voting to impeach him.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's all a matter of convenience, you know. I still can't figure out why my Democratic Party that believes in truth and justice and freedom for all and freedom and justice for all didn't prosecute Trump. I'll never forgive the Democratic Party again. I will never again be aligned with the Democratic Party as I have been for more than half a century.
That was Merrick Garland's decision not to prosecute Trump. He should. The first 2 years.
I blame everybody. The only people I'm going to listen to. I have unsubscribed from everyone except Barry Sanders and AOC. I will not. I've unsubscribed from the LA County Party, the California Democratic. I'm unsubscribing from all of them. The only ones I'm ever going to listen to again, the only ones I accept emails from, are Bernie Sanders and AOC.
Yeah.
What about Elizabeth Warren? Yeah. Come on.
No. No, I'm not. I'm not. Anyone who is in power and didn't really go after Trump or go after the people who should have gone after Trump, not for me.
Did
Sanders
and
I can't. You know what? I used to love Bill Maher and the Daily Show and all that shit. I can't watch anymore. They're making fun of this this country being totally dissolved. This is the end of Rome, baby. And it's going to crumble into a hot civil war. And I'm not going to, they remind me of Nero fiddling while Rome burned. Our comedians, our Democrats, our liberals. Look, I've got a whole pocket of friends, many of them in Humboldt County, who think it's just marvelous that RFK Jr. is head of Hilton HHS. I'm trying to tell them, you can't support just Kennedy and not support Trump. And they say, oh, yes, we can. One-trick wonders, one-issue wonders. And this has been the biggest problem for me with progressive politics for the 15 years I've been involved. Dealing with the entire cannabis movement, they were one-issue wonders. Dealing with the movement to amend the 3 strikes law, one-issue wonders. Dealing with industrial hemp, one-issue wonders. Dealing with taxes, one-issue wonders. You see, the political system of the United States of America doesn't just affect the United States. It affects the entire free world. Every single person who is capable of voting in the United States represents at least 1,000 other people in the world who are affected by their vote but cannot cast their vote.
Yeah.
The biggest problem is this country doesn't, the citizens of this nation do not take this seriously enough.
Well, they will when they start seeing all their things, all their benefits and programs and stuff evaporate in the air, so that the billionaires can get more and more trillion-dollar tax cuts.
They can't do anything about it. The Republicans own both houses, and they're supporting Trump all the way. Isn't it curious how McConnell all of a sudden got a prick of conscience when he's going to retire?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
He finally figured out it wasn't in his. He could vote his conscience instead of his party.
A lot of people think, and I agree with them. We think that the economy is going to crash. With the tariffs and all these things that Trump's doing with the
economy is crashing.
Yeah, you're right.
You're right. I think it's
and prices are not going down. It's the what do they call it now? It's the great. I just listened to it. The great, not tyranny. The great. I can't think of the term. I was listening to the senator talk about it. It's the great betrayal. The great betrayal, and Trump is betraying all his people. I mean, he's not lowering prices; they're going to be going up. Who cares? I
mean, he's 2 months into 4 years, and he wants to be president for more than 4 years.
Well, but in 2026, if things have gotten as bad as we think they're going to get, maybe the Democrats will take control of Congress again. Remember, it's not that many votes away. They only have like 3 votes positive in the House.
I know.
It's very small.
I know, but the Democrats couldn't do anything in the justice system to put Trump in prison. And if anyone gets credit for putting Trump in the White House, it's Joe Biden. When are they going to learn? They don't learn from their own mistakes.
Yeah, that's true.
The biggest problem is this two-party system. Every other democracy in the world has learned from the mistakes of the United States. George Washington warned against the two-party system, and this is intentional. We should have 4 or 5 equally strong parties, and then we'd have a democracy. We don't have a democracy; it's a republic to begin with.
Yeah,
and every other parliamentary government in the world has learned from our mistake.
And most countries have parliamentary governments, not Republican governments. And both sides, Canada and Mexico on either side of us, that's what they have. They have parliamentary governments.
If we had a parliamentary government,
they have multiple parties. Yeah, you're right.
If we had a parliamentary government, people who are pissed at Trump for what he's doing could vote him out in a month or 2.
Yeah, but we don't have it, so we're stuck with what we got. And the only chance is going to be.
You are. I'm getting the fuck out of this godforsaken evil nation.
You're going. Next week is when you're leaving, isn't it?
No.
We gotta watch the language, guys.
Don't blow it. I'm just leaving the nation. I'd rather die in any other place on this planet than to live in this evil, godforsaken, hypocritical nation under Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Now, when I get the hell out of here, I'll be a lot more positive. Like next week, next Tuesday. Okay.
Next Tuesday.
But right now, I just can't wait. Really. I'm just itching my butt.
We're going to have, when you finally do leave, and we'll have you on the air here with us, it'll be interesting to see how much your negativity has turned positive. It'll be shocking, I am sure, the negativity becoming positive instead.
Because you see, Sam, we're all concerned about your blood pressure, for crying out loud.
I've got 2 blood pressure medications, and it's still at 160 to 180.
If you'd like to join in on this conversation, our phone lines are open at 909-383-1000 or 909-383-9000. So give us a call and join in and see what we'd love to hear what's on your mind. One thing I did want to mention is, one of the things that Trump did, one of his peeve things, is he renamed the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Gulf of America. And apparently AOL, Google, and succumbed to his thing and renamed it on the map. If you go to Google Maps, it now shows Gulf of America rather than Gulf of Mexico. And the Encyclopedia Britannica is refusing that. They say, oh no, it's a 400-year history of the Gulf of Mexico, and we're not going to do it. But what's interesting is that Mexico is threatening to take Google to court over its Gulf of America name change on maps for users in the United States, pointing out that much of the body of water lies outside U.S. maritime borders in regions controlled by Mexico. And get this one, this is really good, Cuba. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said Monday at a news conference that President Donald Trump's executive order to rename the Gulf of Mexico only applied to the U.S. continental shelf, the area of seabed to which the United States lays claim under the law of the sea and maritime agreements with other coastal states. It has asked Google to fully restore the name Gulf of Mexico to its map service for areas outside
this is so
U.S. territory.
freaking inane.
It's
so freaking inane.
And the thing is, Google is emboldened to the Trump administration now because they have so many contracts with the U.S. government, and they have so much money involved that they'll do whatever Trump says. So if Trump says, if Trump told them to name it the Gulf of Trump, they probably would have named it the Gulf of Trump and put it right in there.
Yeah, you remind me of my favorite new saying that I've heard over the last 2 or 3 months. The United States is not a nation. The United States is not a country. The United States is a business. That's all that counts here is money. And since Trump's in control of the money, everyone's going to fall in line. It was the same thing for Hitler. Hitler did the same thing. He just took advantage of the fact that people were poor and they were economically behind him. And then he took advantage of that support to do everything else he did, which was, when Trump or his emissaries like Kanye West start sending Jews to concentration camps or for example, legal aliens to Guantanamo, who's going to speak up? If the AP if Google or the others are willing to say it's Trump, it's the Gulf of America, nobody's going to speak up.
That's right.
This is fascism all over again. And it's because so many of the people who are young that have grown up on their damn phones haven't been taught history properly because the education system's been dumbed down. And that's why so many people actually disbelieve that the Holocaust happened.
Yeah, that's true. The
world is going crazy, and Trump is really the ultimate symbol of it.
Mexico sent a letter to Google protesting what they're doing, and Google wrote back to them by a name from Chris Turner, Google's Vice President of Government Affairs and Public Policy. And he wrote that the change was, quote, consistent with our normal operating procedures to reflect on our platform's geographic names prescribed by different authoritative government sources, including where authoritative sources may differ. However, I think instead of the word authoritative, they should have used authoritarian government sources, including where authoritarian sources may differ, because this is Trump really is turning this country into an authoritarian country. And what's so amazing is that so many people in the Republican Party are just going along with it. And this name change
it's what they want. It's what the Republican Party has always wanted. One of the things that I think is really kind of stirring me is that Associated Press, the AP service, has been barred from the White House press room because they didn't make the change about the Gulf of Mexico being the Gulf of America.
Yeah, welcome.
In addition to that, he has the Trump administration has lawsuits against ABC, CBS, NBC, and CNN. He's basically trying to shut down the media that disagrees with him. That's basically what's happening.
Yeah. And welcome to obvious blatant censorship.
I would imagine that the next they're going to try to ban the Encyclopedia Britannica because they refused to change the name to the Gulf of America and keep saying it's the Gulf of Mexico.
Starting with the Department of Education. That's what
they're going to
shut down the Department of Education.
They're going to pull the Encyclopedia Britannica out of every single school library. You can't have the Encyclopedia Britannica in there because.
But let's recognize the fact that this is a problem in the judicial system. You know, we have 3 three forms of law in our nation: judicial, executive, and congressional. Now, this is not a problem with Trump. This is a problem with the judicial system, and Trump has learned this really well. File a lawsuit and settle. So many of them have settled lawsuits with Trump instead of following through with it. Okay, so they're going to sue all these. You know why they're going to sue all of these companies? Because lawyers are more expensive than settling.
Yeah.
And that's the trick. The judicial system is one of the largest carnivores of our economics in this nation. And it all comes down to settling. Instead of going through the judicial system and letting a judge or a jury make a decision, they settle with each other. And then they've got the non-disclosure agreements where, oh, we settled. We didn't do anything wrong, but we can't talk about it. Okay? The judicial system fell down decades ago. The judicial system was the first to be crumbled. And Trump knows this well. That's why he appointed all those idiots to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Boy, and that is what's making one of the big differences, the amount of power the Supreme Court is given. And there's this case before the Supreme Court right now about his right to fire independent inspector generals, this kind of stuff. And they couldn't do it. And everyone says the Supreme Court is going to give him that power. If he can just fire anybody he wants, that really is going to put an incredible amount of power. You know, it can make the executive branch just about, you know, it won't be a co-equal with the others anymore. It will be absolutely 100% superior.
It's called the unitary executive. That's what the Republican Party has been working ever since Nixon said, if the president does it, that means it's not illegal. He was at that time pretty much putting expression to the fact that he believes that the president of the United States should be above the law. That's basically.
Yes. And no president before him, Republican or Democrat, ever said that, nor acted that way.
What Trump has done by the appointments to the Supreme Court, along with the support that he got from Mitch McConnell to steal one of those appointments from the Democrats, is to basically neuter the judicial branch. And right now what he's doing is trying to defy Congress to basically neuter Congress so that he is the sole authority. And that's really dangerous, and I don't think it's actually going to work. I don't think, because there are still too many people in the United States government that believe in the United States and believe in the Constitution, and they are going to stand up at key moments, which is what they're doing right now. There's like several lawsuits about the changes that President Musk is making right now, and he's being stopped in courts. Even by judges that were appointed by Donald Trump.
Trump's not going to obey court orders.
No, he says
that remains to be determined.
Well, let's back up for a second here, and because you reminded me of another contrast between the American Republic and parliamentary democracies. Those appointments to the U.S. Supreme Court are for life.
Yeah,
they can't be, the only way they can be removed is by impeaching, the same process of impeaching a president. It's not the case in democracies throughout the rest of the world. In democracies throughout the rest of the world, their Supreme Court, their national Supreme Court, is up for election at the same time every president is up. They can be voted out. And they have term limits. And they have age limits. The United States doesn't have any of that. And that's where the problem began, is at the very top with the U.S. Supreme Court. Go back to the appointments Reagan made, and you see what I'm talking about. There's been a steady pattern where that wasn't the first time McConnell stealing an appointment from Obama. That's not the first time that's happened. It's just gotten worse as we got along. And that's really where the judicial system of this nation is totally fucked. Because the only color that counts in court is green. Doesn't matter whether you're black, brown, yellow, red. If you got the green, you get by with what you want to get by with.
That's
by
true
green,
for
I mean money. And
that's true for the legislature. That's true for Congress too. The only thing that matters in Congress is green, for the most part. Here's the thing that Trump just said the other day, February 15th.
Once again, it's a business. This is not a nation. It's not a country. It's a business.
He said he who saves his country does not violate any law. That is, I mean, that's dictatorial.
Yeah, that's Nixon.
Yeah, and it's just unbelievable.
And Napoleon Bonaparte.
And Hitler. And Putin.
Yeah. I saw all these quotes, and I can't find them now. People from Hitler and Mussolini and this kind of stuff that kind of paralleled that very same quote that that Trump has made. He who saves his country does not violate any law. Unbelievable. So, all right. So let's see. What else should we be talking about? We only got about 10 minutes left here.
We don't have any callers. We must have bored the entire audience. We don't have any listeners.
No callers yet.
No, we shouted them down is what we did.
Maybe we're all in an echo chamber and we're saying what they believe and they're just nodding and nodding.
Now that I prefer to believe.
Well, if you're out there listening, you want to call in, that's 909. We only got about 10 minutes left, so you have to do it quick.
Call in and tell us we're fucked. Somebody call us and tell us
hey,
we're
Stan,
nuts.
I just got a thing from Eric. You've got to be careful with your language. This is over the air.
This
is on. Remember, this is KCAA, and they're also on 1050 AM and 105.6 FM, so they're kind of controlled there by the FCC. It was not
have you seen? I was watching CNN on Saturday night after Bill Maher. I watched this new comedy show called I can't remember, but This Is the News. It's like this week. This was the week that was, and to my surprise, they used the F word several times. And I'm thinking,
that's, Roy Wood Jr.
Yeah, but that's not going over the air. It's not going broadcast on ABC or CBS or anything. It's being broadcast
on CNN.
Oh yeah, I guess is CNN over the air? I thought it's strictly cable. I don't think they have
cable.
Yeah,
CNN's cable.
It's not like
okay, so that's a distinction. All right. Yeah. Well, sorry about the language.
Yeah. Well, you should be. You should be.
I'm so ashamed of myself.
Okay. All right. So
can someone tell Trump? Can someone tell Trump to follow those customary mores?
As I understand it, his speeches at his rallies are just full of explicatives of one another, and they love it. And what's so amazing, I mean, you know, as we've already talked about, if Biden had done that, you know, these evangelical Christians would be all up in arms about this horrid president, muddying our waters and poisoning the minds of our youth with all the derogatory terms and this kind of stuff. But Trump does it. Hey, it's okay. And, I was at we had this National Day of Protests yesterday.
Yay.
And I was out there protesting in Banning. Banning is a small town, Banning, Beaumont, town about maybe 70, 80,000 people. And we had a protest in front of the Banning City Hall, and about 30, 40 people showed up. And I had a sign, I had two signs, and one said, sexual predator in chief, 47th President of the United States, Donald Trump. And the other one was a picture of Putin and what's the guy in North Korea? Kim
Jong-un.
Yeah, and then Lee in in China, and then Trump. And the sign was the new axis of evil. And Trump joined, really done. And what's going on right now with this thing over Ukraine, with the U.S. talking to Putin, and Ukraine is not involved. They're just and what's going to come down is not going to be. It's going to reward, I'm sure. It's going to reward Russia for its invasion of Ukraine and all the horrors.
You
don't think so?
It's going to give Ukraine to Putin.
Well, a good part of it, anyway.
Listen, The British and the France both have nuclear weapons. They can both deliver to Russia. Europe will unite behind Ukraine and tell the U.S. to, well, I can't use the language, okay, to go away. All right. And Europe and Ukraine will unite against Putin and Russia, and they will win. And it will not become an atomic war. But Trump is the laughingstock of the world, and the United States will be the laughingstock of the world for not supporting Ukraine. Nonetheless, Europe is going to do exactly what Trump wants them to do. They're going to pick up the slack and support Ukraine. That's my prediction.
You think Europe will send in boots on the ground?
Yes.
Really, that will be interesting to see.
Yes, and everything else short of nuclear weapons.
North Korea has sent boots on the ground to fight with the Russians.
So has Iran.
And yeah, right. But so now, I mean, the die has been cast. So if Europe wants to send in some soldiers to fight on Ukraine, oh my God, this could really turn into something. Well, with nuclear weapons. What's so sad is that Ukraine, when the USSR fell apart, Ukraine had lots of nuclear weapons on their land, and they gave them up willingly, and the promise is that Russia would respect them and not try to take them over and this kind of stuff. And Russia obviously lied, and if they had not given up their nuclear weapons, this never would have happened. Russia would never have.
Lanny Gorbachev,
yes.
Gorbachev and others were in the lead of Russia at the time.
Yes,
Putin is the Satan that has turned everything around. And he's done it personally, just like Trump is doing it to the United States. But when Ukraine gave up those weapons, they gave it up to a different leader of Russia, one they could believe in, one who had a track record of fairness and equality.
And you think they didn't think that something could go awry and they could, things change over like they did?
I think that they thought everything was positive. And, remember back then, back in the 80s and early 90s, everything was just great. The economy was great. People were enjoying life. We had 3 balanced budgets under Bill Clinton, balanced because they were balanced on the military budget because we could close down half the military bases all over the world. And this is another thing. Sure, Trump wants to deny all the rest of this stuff. When's he going to deal with the military budget? That's the sacrosanct thing. Because again,
that's not going to happen, Sam. As long as Musk is the president.
Well, because
he gets all of his money from the Defense Department. That's
it's money.
That's where the corruption is in our budget.
This nation has an economy built on war. Ever since they landed the Pilgrims here, war against the Native Americans and war against somebody, and that's really the bottom line. I mean, again, this nation may have been the greatest nation in the world from the end of World War II until we got involved in Vietnam. But since we got involved in Vietnam, this country's gone downhill ever since, and because we preach peace and love and Jesus, and then commit war and genocide. 2 million Vietnamese,
well, listen,
1 million Iraqis.
Come on, Sam, look what this country did way before that we did to Latin America with our war on drugs and that
that's
type
still
of stuff.
happening. That's
still happening. But what I'm saying is this country has always been kind of doing that.
It's a wartime economy. That's why they make the biggest export of the United States is war. The biggest production is our munitions, guns, planes, bombs. You call it whatever you call it. Okay, that's the number one export. If this country exported food and democracy like they export war and genocide, the whole planet would be a lot better off, and we would be the greatest nation in the world. But not the way it is. Not ever.
No, and because you don't make money exporting food and clothing and that kind of stuff. You make money exporting arms.
You make friends, you make allies.
You make allies, yeah. But what I'm saying is war industry here, which is enormous in this country, that manufactures weapons and bombs and all this stuff and tanks and all this military stuff. They make a lot of money selling this stuff to countries all over the world.
And then call itself a Christian nation. The warmongers are the ones who put Christ on the cross.
Wait a minute. Remember, Christ said, "I come not I can't remember. I smite my. I can't remember the line. It's a very war-making line. But anyway,
you're not up on your Christian theology, huh?
No, I am not up on my Christian theology.
I am.
That's one thing I
am, but it doesn't make any difference because the great majority of people who call themselves Christians just, the biggest problem in this country is that people accept the politics and the religion they're born into and never think twice about it. They never think for themselves. They just become automatons between the ears. And they practice the same religion they were raised in, and they practice the same politics they were raised in.
What it's called is called grooming. The churches and the religions are the total, have been grooming little kids ever since when? And it's perfectly okay to sit there and call a little baby a Catholic child and take a 3-year-old and march him into the religious church. Could you imagine what would be going on if parents had to take their 3-year-olds to a drag show? But that's not okay. But it's okay to take your 3-year-old into a church where they're sitting getting all this religious stuff, the Bible and all this. That's okay. And the Bible is just a horrid book. It's full of murder and exploitation and rape and all this kind of stuff. Just page after page after page of God smiting the enemies of the Israelites and all this kind of stuff. You go to a drag show, nobody's smiting anybody or anything at all. But for some reason you can't take your kid to a drag show. That is evil. But if you take your kid to a church, we're going to talk to you about this God that smited the Philistines, killed them there, and they went into Egypt and they killed all the firstborn of the Egyptians and all this kind of. That's okay, but going to a drag show where they're sitting there talking about tolerance and having good times and all this kind of stuff. That's
another example, Lenny, other than a drag show. I mean, yeah, I'm hetero. I don't have any biases against anybody else. But,
because the drag show's entertainment, and that's what churches are. They're entertainment. Look at the churches now.
Here's another thing that's really curious. I've in my research on other countries, I've learned that there are a lot of nations that permit nudity in public. Just nudity. It's no big deal. Many of them are in Europe, and there's also nations where Germany has prostitution is legal throughout Germany. Prostitution is legal state by state throughout Mexico. About half the states have it legal. And legal other countries. Well, yeah, but I'm not talking about that kind of. That's true. That's very controlled. But the point is.
Listen, I've just been told we got 90 seconds left, so you each got 15 seconds to make a last statement. Last statement, 15 seconds?
My good luck and my best wishes to those who are United States citizens that are going to stay.
Okay.
You got to take it serious. You can't be laughing.
Whose phone is going off here? Is that my phone?
I don't know.
It's my phone.
Is it?
Yeah. No, it's my phone. It's my phone. Turned it off.
Thanks for having me. And Sam, take your blood pressure medicines, buddy. We're worried about you. I love you guys. Thanks for having me.
Hey, listen, this is what it takes, my friend. This is what you got to get angry and righteous anger and indignation to be motivated enough to do something about it. It takes guts. It takes balls. It takes willing to put your life on the line.
Listen, if you want to help advertise on our show, give me a call, 760-799-2055, or send an email to rnlanny@aol.com. Thank you for joining us tonight on Lanny Sense. Thank you, Gregory. Thank you, Sam. And thank you for being the radio station that leaves no listener behind, for allowing our show to be on, which leaves no gender behind.